161st Street, Yankee Stadium.
Swung on and hit in the air to deep center. Gets back, away back. She is gone.
All right. Welcome back to the Boys 161st Street, episode 216. Today's July 18th, and we have made it to the All-Star break. The season is officially halfway over. It is exactly. Is it?
No,
did they put the All-Star break?
No, we're at 80, 90.
It's a little silly. They should do it. They should do it exactly halfway between. Either way,
say second half, but it's definitely not second half.
That's when I said that I was like, it's probably not exactly halfway. It's a little silly. It should be exactly halfway. So I'm gonna put that in the
suggestion but an All-Star game in like June, like the beginning of June, doesn't feel right.
I don't know. Either way, neither here nor there. There's a lot of rumors flying around, so we got no time to waste. We got an All-Star game, or we got a home run derby to watch. So we'll preview that. By the time you listen to it, you'll have already seen it. So we'll make our picks, and you'll have to deal with that. Then we're talking about the Juan Soto rumors for a while, I'm assuming, because that's a lot of fun stuff. And we posted it on our Instagram and our Twitter. And honestly, I got a reaction from people that I wasn't expecting. I expected a resounding yes, even though it would likely cost a lot, and the Nationals have said, and I'll let Chandler tell, he's our resident Nationals representative, mainly just because he read the article and I did not. So what are they asking for?
Oh, they just want any teams 1 through 4 or 5 prospects potentially to take over Patrick Corbin's contract, which, if you don't know, I think that's 20-something million a year for the next 2 or 3 years. You could fact check me on that, but I think it's somewhere in that ballpark. And then possibly, instead of one of those prospects, a major league contributor that's young, i.e. a Gleyber Torres, if you're looking at the Yankees, something like that. You guys were saying Miguel Andujar, no. That's just not going to do it. Florial, probably not. To Murph, it's going to take like a pretty young, not superstar, but good player.
I mean, I was not thinking Florial was going to get it done. That was
I know you're not. No, I'm not saying you're saying like Florial for Soto, like take it or leave it. I'm just saying like it's going to take a guy of Gleyber Torres' caliber if you're talking major league guy with only, I mean, he's got 2 years left before he's a free agent, maybe 3. So if you're going to give up potentially the best player in baseball at 23 years old, then you're going to be commanding a hefty return, and rightfully so.
And so the reason we're talking about this is, if you have been not really paying attention, the Yankees and Mets apparently will both try for Soto, which we're not sure how much that means to this point, because obviously the Yankees have tried for a lot of people, and they do that classic thing where they checked in on him, they kicked the tires, and it ended up being too much. So that's what we know now. We don't actually know if they're going to do anything about it, but I was talking about this with Chandler and Murph when I was up in the Great North this weekend. We went up to Lake George, to a little lake, little golf, a little bit of Saratoga, a little bit of fun. And we were just chit-chatting about this. A lot of bit of fun. And Damon did not join us because he is just apparently our worst enemy. But we were talking about the Soto situation, and I was thinking to myself, why would this be any different than any other trade rumor? Like, they talk about the story was on the trade market last year, and like all of these people, Castillo's been in and out of the trade rumors for the last 3 years, it seems. Like all this stuff, what makes me think that the Yankees would do anything different with this situation with Juan Soto? And I think if there's any person at all that the Yankees would go all in for, I mean, Juan Soto is the carbon copy of a player that you would give anything up for. He is a generational talent. He is 23 years old. He doesn't have much of an injury history. He's unbelievable. He's not homer or bust. And honestly, I feel like he's a perfect fit in New York, and just the swagger. Like he's somebody that can easily just translate right into New York and not get no moment would be too big for him. And we'll get a lot more into the fit thing, but I'll leave it there, and I'll just say I think this situation is different in that sense, because I think they would be fools to not go after him. I mean, he's a player, and that's why I'm not worried about trading Dominguez and trading all these top prospects, because Juan Soto is what you hope Dominguez can become. And
If Dominguez hits his ceiling.
If Dominguez hits his ceiling and everything goes perfect,
Then he's
you
Juan
hope
Soto.
that he becomes Juan Soto. And I really, that's a lot of ifs. Juan Soto is already that. He is a surefire, can't miss guy. And a lot of people that were against it were like pointing to the defense, and he's not elite. This is potentially the best hitter of this generation, and he's 23 years old. So
Like that.
I'll leave it there and let you guys.
There's not much else you can say about Juan Soto. The fact that we're already having these conversations and he's legitimately 23 years old.
It just
Like,
I don't really get why people were so upset. Like, just stop. Like, we're not saying it's going to happen. Nobody's saying it's going to happen. Everybody knows it's a long shot. This is quite literally, this would be the equivalent of trading for Mike Trout 5 years ago. Or how old is he now? 30, 31. So this is the equivalent of trading for Mike Trout 7 years ago, or right after he made his debut, or year 4, whatever the point. You get the point. You're trading for a guy of that caliber. Nobody expects it to happen, but I think we could all agree that it's a no-brainer. And if you don't plan on re-signing Judge, and you know what, that's neither here nor there. We don't know. Nobody knows anything. We don't have an update from opening day. Everything's still the same. Like, oh yeah, I want to be a Yankee for life. And then today it comes out, money and contracts don't matter to me. Bullshit. Like, if you're going to just lie, or don't lie to me, like, money's clearly a factor. Fine, whatever. But if you don't think you're going to re-sign Judge, this is the only thing that can soften that blow. You can't miss out on Soto and not re-sign Judge, because then you have no excuse for anything. Like, that's in my opinion. If you miss out on that, fine, but you better re-sign Judge.
yeah. I mean, I think it was interesting today because Juan Soto was at like the media day at the All-Star game, and like he's finding out, like the rest of us, what is the rumors about his situation, because previously in the season the Nationals were saying, oh, we're not going to trade him, we're going to work out some sort of extension with him, and then now he's on the trading block, and again,
he turned down $450 million. So
I know, but he's also finding out these like trade situations at the same time as we are. So that, with the fact that he also turned down almost $500 million, like
That's so much money.
it's so much money.
well, I was looking at
I can't even stay up the straight face,
Yeah.
but like what I just don't see any situation where he goes back to DC.
This is one thing. I know you guys were talking about how John Hyman last episode. I think that was Damon that called him that.
I did not say that.
I think it was Merv.
John Hyman, excuse me. I mean, if somebody mispronounces his name, Damon's usually a safe bet.
I know I'm usually that guy,
Yeah,
but that was not me.
well, John Hyman, you can't read too much into what he's saying, but he said a couple of reasons for why Juan Soto turned down that deal. Take it with a grain of salt. It's Mr. Hyman, but one, the Nationals are expected to sell the team. They're going to be under different ownership. Okay. 2, the AAV comes out to like less than $30 million a year, or right at it. He's definitely worth more than $30 million a year. There was one other thing, I don't remember it off the top of my head, but he listed 3 things, and those were the 2 biggest ones, that the AAV doesn't match anywhere near the top players. He cited, Max Scherzer and a couple other deals like that. He's 23 years old, and then they're selling the team, so you have no fucking clue what's going on after that. So I don't know. That's kind of what gives me a little glimmer of hope, if that's even remotely true, because obviously the Yankees aren't selling the team anytime soon, and I don't know. I think they would be willing to give him more than $30 million a year, and if that's what it takes, then that's fine. But
there's a lot of things that we need to dive into with this, because there's a lot of moving parts. Obviously, the reason why the Yankees and the Mets are the teams that are rumored to be in already, because they're going to kick the tires, is because you have to be 2 things, more than 2 things, but 2 main things. You need to have the farm to do it, and you need to have the money to be able to sign him. It's 2. You can't have one without the other. You're not going to trade for him if you don't have $440 million just lying around to extend the man. And you also got to absolutely love him inside, outside, all over outside the field, on the field. Everything about Juan Soto you have to love. This is a very big decision, obviously. But another thing that I thought about that I wanted to get your guys' take on was, I feel like, they're talking about how this deal is going to be the biggest trade ever, the biggest trade package ever. what were you saying? Walter Payton.
Yeah.
They
They're
said
saying Kevin Durant.
Yeah, they were saying Kevin Durant.
They're saying all this stuff. I feel like at some part of me,
Herschel Walker is what it
Herschel
was.
Walker is the one. Some part of me thinks, and as it should be, because this is a generational talent at 23 years old. Part of me thinks that price tag could potentially come down a touch just because the desperation that the Nationals are in. Look at where they're at. I mean, and I'm not saying a lot, but I'm saying it could bring it down a touch because he walks next. He has 1 year after this.
No, he's got 2 years of arbitration after this year.
Okay, he has 2 years after this, but like they know very well that they're not going to resign.
His value is never as high as it is today.
It's never as high as it is today, but I'm just saying I feel like some part of it is like that he declined their contract extension, so it makes me think
I'm on your side. That's why I was saying that to add to your point.
Oh yeah, so my point being, if it gets past this trade deadline, I mean, he's eventually going to walk, and then they have nothing. That's what I'm saying. They kind of have a little less leverage. I know they have all the leverage in the world still, but they have less leverage than you think because, I mean, if he walks, they have nothing out of it.
Every single year that this goes on, each deadline that passes, each winter that passes, that package gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So if
Absolutely, you're right.
If they're going to do it, that now would be the time to do it. Obviously, no shit. That's a no-brainer. If you're going to trade the best player arguably in baseball and arguably the brightest future in the game for the next 10 to 15 years, you do it now. And if you don't, then what? Then you have to re-sign him. I just don't really see how you can hold him past this if you don't plan on re-signing him, because then you're just letting, like Luke said.
I mean, that's obvious.
I mean, yeah, I know, but I'm just saying his package will never be higher than it is today.
Murph, you looked like you were bursting out the seams. Go ahead.
No, well, so you're right about that, but they also have more leverage right now than they're ever going to have. So it's not like a rental where he walks at the end of the year, so somebody's getting him for the second half of this year, and then they can maybe re-sign him. He's under team control for another 2 to 3 years, which makes the trade target or the trade package that much bigger, because then whatever team it is has a couple years to try to work out that deal, and you don't have to get it done before he becomes a free agent this summer or this winter.
But what's the incentive? Right. What's the incentive to not trade him? Yes, he's the best player in baseball, but they're years from contending. So
no, I agree.
No reason for them not to trade him.
They're going to try to trade him.
Unless they're like 100% confident that they can re-sign him, which obviously is not the case, then there's no reason why they should not trade him.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree, but they shouldn't just trade him to trade him. They're waiting. They're trying to.
Right.
Their price is very obviously high, and if there are 2 or even 3 teams that are going to have a bidding war for him, then they're going to sit back, look at the deals, see what works for them, and go for it. And they have the ability, because he's not walking this year, they have the ability to say, we're willing to trade him right now for the right price. So they are going to get that price. And if not, they can wait until the winter, or they can wait and try to still sign him in the winter. You know, that kind of thing.
I think
that they will.
I think if anybody's serious about it, this is a slam dunk, surefire. I think this is more on the teams that are trying to trade him than the Nationals, because they've said their asking price. It's fair. If a team's serious about trading him, they'll move him. If you come in, and I'm just going to use the Yankees as an example, I don't think it's going to happen. Just let me preface it with that. There's, I would say, like maybe less than 10% chance that this happens. Probably less than that. Probably less than 5% chance. But if you come in with a package of Volpe, Dominguez, Waldichuk, and then toss in, like Pereira and maybe one more, like an Austin Wells or something like that, that's a no-brainer to me for the Nationals. You're robbing another farm system. Not robbing them. I mean, it's justified. Those guys, you're
building your team.
You're literally building your future, and that's what you have to get out of him. So, like I said, just using that as a framework, because, that's the Yankees, which we know, and then what they said. I think if would I do that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. In a heartbeat.
Too.
Especially,
we have the farm system to withstand something like that, and the active players that are good in this window right now. It makes absolutely no sense not to do it. The only thing that it poses is now you choosing between him and Judge, and that's now a different conversation that we can have in a second, but that's the only thing you really have to, not the only thing, but that's a big thing that you have to think about. And I think if the Yankees were going to choose between him or Judge to be your cornerstone outfielder moving forward, it's Juan Soto in a heartbeat. Judge is 30 years old, and they have injury concerns, whether that's warranted or not. They have injury concerns. He's 30 years old. Juan Soto was 23. He's 7 years younger, and he's arguably just as good, if not better, than Judge is right now. Judge is having the better year right now. We know that. We're all watching that happen right before our eyes. But I think everybody in this room can say that I think Juan Soto is the better hitter, and he's going to be the better player.
Who do you want for the next
4 or 5 years? And the next 10 with him, but the next 4 or 5 years, I think he's going to be the better player.
Yes, I'll say this though. Just like I want to take a step back quickly, because if we trade for him right now, we've talked about this a ton. We've had arguments about this. We've all said that we would probably sell the entire farm system if it meant we were going to win a World Series. And all we want out of the front office is to do something to put us in that situation and do whatever they can and make the best move possible to do that. And getting a legit franchise player just for 2 years, let alone just 1 year, and trading away a couple of our farm players. That's literally what we've been asking for the whole year.
Oh, are you saying the potential of trading for him and not extending him?
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's what I'm saying right now. I'm saying,
how would you feel about this if you trade for him, don't extend him, and extend Judge, and then you have Judge and Soto on the same team for what'd you say, Murph? He's got 2 more years of arbitration.
Yep.
Yeah,
I still think he's worth any price tag for that. For
That's
3 years or 2.5 years of Judge and Soto in your outfield, I think you pay that price, because the only one that's realistically in that scenario going to hurt you in the long run, obviously the pitching prospects, but we have pitching depth. If we have pretty decent pitching depth all throughout the minors, and we have a lot of good young arms in the lower levels. The only one that really, really hurts you there is Volpe, because we don't have a shortstop. Sorry, IKF, but he's not the shortstop of the future. We all know that. That's not a shock. But if you trade Dominguez, fine. He's 19? Juan Soto's
and you just got the outfielder. That
Juan
replaces
Soto
him.
is 4 years older than him, and he's got
4 light years better than
and he's
him.
got 4 years of major league experience, a couple MVP runner-ups. He's made 3 or 4 All-Star teams.
I think the argument about keeping Jason Dominguez starts and ends with his ceiling
is Juan
hopes
Soto.
to be Juan Soto. End of conversation. Throw away Jason Dominguez. Who gives a fuck?
That would be honestly
we never thought that Juan Soto would even be an option. That's why we were hoping that Dominguez would be that guy. Now that we know that he's an option, I would throw Dominguez and all the fucking avocados in the world for him. It doesn't even matter. He
100%.
is gone in my mind if that's the case. I don't even bat an eye.
Would you put Gleyber Torres in that package?
Honestly, when you were talking about that before, I didn't consider Gleyber would be that guy, because I didn't know that they were asking for a MLB ready contributor like that. But if that was the case, let's just, for the sake of conversation, assume that it is.
Would you package? I'm saying a Volpe, Dominguez, Gleyber.
I'm getting there. Okay. I would package that whole prospect package and Gleyber Torres, because if you think about it, and I'm operating under the assumption that we retain Juan Soto. If you do retain Juan Soto and you go that route for 15 years, 440 million, whatever the fuck it may be, you don't have, even if you're the Yankees, we've seen that they don't really like going over the luxury tax. You don't have the money to pay 4 players. No, I'll pause there. You don't have the money to do it. I don't think it's personally smart to have 4 players on the payroll that are each making around $40 million, because then you become the Angels, and then you have Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, and they're wasting away, because then even if you are the Yankees, you're still going to not be able to field a complete team around those guys. And as we know in baseball, it's not like basketball where you just can have a few superstars carry the team. You really need to be deep all throughout. And then if the farm system's fucked, there are cons to this for sure. And I don't think, and my point being with the Gleyber thing is that if you go after Juan Soto, we're going to be talking about an extension for him at some point. You don't have the money to extend him. You just don't, because now you're paying Juan Soto, Stanton, Cole, and potentially Judge. Will figure out what happens there. But I do believe it's one or the other there. But you don't. Gleyber is the last to get an extension in that group of players.
To me, you have 2 options.
That's why I'm saying trade him away while his value is high right now, because that will sweeten the deal and that'll land Soto.
To me, you have 2 options. You can either, if you're going to go do this, you either get him, you extend Judge, and you let it rock for those 2 years, and whatever happens after that, you don't extend them both. Like you said, that's going to hamstring you in the future. Fine, whatever. Or You sign him, extend him, you let Judge walk, you give him a decent offer, hope he's like a courtesy offer, see if he takes it. He's not going to. We know that it's all about money. But if you're serious about getting Soto and making him your franchise cornerstone, you can't have them all. I mean, you can, but they're not going to. I mean, this isn't the Dodgers. This isn't the Mets who are just going to throw out a $400 million payroll. We know that. So I think it all just boils down to that. And again, this is all just the extreme hypothetical because it's the All-Star break. You know, we can talk a little bit about the Red Sox series if you want to talk about that. But this is the reason we're giving this so much is because of how rare a situation like this is, and it's the All-Star break. So if you're, annoyed like, oh, yeah, you guys are fucking idiots, this is never going to happen, we know it's probably not going to happen. But these are just kind of laying out the scenarios and what it would, that blueprint of getting a guy like that. I mean, I don't know.
I think we talked about this previously, but this team right now, the Yankees team right now, is like sneaky old. And what I mean by that is that like
they're not the baby bombers.
They're not baby bombers anymore. And this World Series window with this core group of guys is, we're getting out of that window right now. We're like
this is the last year of that window.
Yeah, I'd say this year, maybe next year, if depending what happens with Judge, but this is really the year where that window is starting to close in rapidly. And, this is either the year where we win it all or we completely change the dynamic and the type of roster we have on this team. And if we can trade for a guy like Soto, keep Judge for this year, go out there, win a World Series, and then, figure out what happens with Judge, figure out what happens with Soto, sign one of them, and then trade away a couple people from the farm system. Like, I am totally cool with that. But I think that move right there is a World Series move.
I mean, look what the Dodgers did last year.
You think
the Dodgers traded for Trey Turner and Max Scherzer, and they went for the throat.
David said, I think that's a World Series move. He's literally one of the best players, if not the best player in baseball.
I didn't say I think. I said that is.
That's the biggest World Series move you can ever make, and that's why we're so far-fetched.
I didn't say I think. I said
what do you think helps this team more win a World Series, Castillo or Soto, for this year?
What are we talking about?
I think that's a huge argument.
I don't.
You got one bat, Soto. Or you got. I disagree.
Murph? I think it is an argument.
I mean, you need that caliber pitcher if you want to make a deep postseason run.
Soto.
Thank you.
I mean,
I'm going with Soto as well, but
it's not. It's not a laughable conversation. You have another ace going out there that's going to give you 6-7 innings in October, or you got a guy that's going to get 3-4 plate appearances a game. I don't think
it's laughable, but I don't think it's particularly close.
I think it's very close. I'm saying for a World Series run this year, not a guy you want to build a team around. But if you get to October and you've got Luis Castillo going up against the Astros, or you got Juan Soto hitting in the 3-hole,
yeah,
and if Juan Soto contributes 30% of the time, or 38% of the time, he's doing his job. But you need, I don't know. I just think it's worth a conversation because if you get Juan Soto, you're not going to get Luis Castillo. That's off the table.
Perfectly fine.
If your argument is whether a starting pitcher is more valuable than
an elite starting pitcher right now on this team.
We have one.
Huh?
We do have one.
We
have one. We have one.
I agree.
You need more than one.
It's not like we don't have one.
To win a World Series, you need more than one.
Sure.
I think you can compensate.
I think that
Soto.
I'm pretty sure that having arguably the best left-handed hitter in baseball in your outfield to go along with arguably
I don't know why you guys are laughing at this. Like, I think this is very much a conversation.
We're having the conversation.
No, you guys are just like, I think that
I'm not laughing at you. I'm just saying.
Come on now, like
I'm just saying.
No,
you're saying you think you need the extra starting pitcher, but I'm pretty sure adding Juan Soto to a mix of already great bats will more than suffice for the lack thereof of one extra pitcher.
So what if you have Jordan Montgomery going game 3 and he gives up 6 runs? You think Juan Soto can? I mean, he's just
that's no one can overcome that. Not even a Luis. What if Luis Castillo comes in here and isn't the best pitcher in baseball? Everybody fucks up. Like it's. I don't know.
I'm just saying and come postseason time, and I'm not even necessarily arguing for one or the other. I just don't think it's a conversation that you need to laugh off because we need a starting pitcher. We were sitting here an episode or two ago just talking about how, you know what, we talked ourselves out of an outfielder as a need. And yes, I know that he's not Benintendi. I know that he's not Ian Happ, but this team needs a starting pitcher. That is a need. That's not a want. That's not a luxury. We need an elite starting pitcher. If they're going to make a postseason run, they need another elite
And
starting
it's a fair
pitcher.
point to make because if you go for Soto, you're getting nothing else.
That's it. Is
Chandler,
his
do you
back good
think
enough?
that
I don't
Luis
know.
Castillo is a top 10 starting pitcher
This year,
going forward. Do you think if you could get
I
any
don't-
pitcher,
I'm not talking
regardless of who's available at the deadline, do you think he's a top 10 pitcher?
No.
I'm not talking about
Contracts
going forward.
aside.
I'm talking about if you're winning a World Series this year.
All right, so yeah, going forward rest of the season then, based on what they've done this year, yeah.
No.
Do you think he's a top 10 pitcher in baseball?
No. He's not. He's just he's one of the best. He's the best available.
No, he's
he's
knocking
not
on the
top
door
10.
of that. He's going to get Cy Young votes if he keeps this up. Yeah,
Is he their
I do.
all-star? Gotta believe, right?
I mean, it has to be. He
Yeah,
is a
right.
true dominant arm.
I mean, the Reds suck, so I'm pretty sure he'll be on that list. If
I'm just-
10% of the
Yeah.
league is an
Yeah.
all-star.
That's
No.
the only point I'm trying to make is that the Yankees have other needs. And yes, I want Juan Soto. That's not lost on me. He is a generational talent. I love Juan Soto. He's one of my favorite players to watch in the game. He's exciting. He's fun. He's done it in the postseason. He's grabbing his dick and showing up Verlander and Cole in the postseason. I get it. I want Juan Soto more than anybody in the world.
World Series ring.
I'm just saying when
Can't
you're
teach that.
when you're looking at people who could be the difference in a World Series run, I think an elite starting pitcher this season I'm not more valuable than Juan Soto, nothing like that, but you can't just throw it out the window. Because
Didn't throw it out the
need.
window. Didn't laugh
No,
at it. I would just say I
agree with
really
Chandler,
think
like-
I
You
don't think
literally
it's
said,
close.
what are we talking about here? Those were your exact words.
What
I
are we
agree with
talking
you
about here? I think
because-
Juan Soto's the guy.
Well, yes, but I agree with Chandler because the fact that if we just put the positions up against each other, we need a pitcher more than we need an outfielder. That's a fact, right? But then you start to compare,
The caliber of that
a
player.
above average pitcher in Luis Castillo to a generational talent in Juan Soto, and whether or not it's like they're not the same position, obviously, but we need a pitcher more than an outfielder. It's like I get the conversation, but we don't need a pitcher for putting up more runs.
And like you said, you're correct in saying that this year, this is more of a conversation because this year, Luis Castillo can give us that extra bump. But when you're making a decision to decide who you're trading for between one or the other, that's not all you're looking at. And that's why I'm saying it's not as close of a conversation. If it had been what you were saying, yes, it's a close conversation because in a vacuum,
all I asked.
vacuum this year, it's closer than I'm still picking Soto in that situation, but that's not how you look at a trade because
I wasn't asking
value for the
about
future.
trade
I know,
value.
I know,
I'm
I know,
asking
I
which
know.
is more pivotal to this season as an elite starting pitcher or an elite outfielder. And I would argue that
I
it would be
would
a pitcher.
still
Now,
take Soto.
so would I. But it has to be talked about because if you get Soto, again, don't think it's going to happen. But if you do, everything else is off the table because you don't have a farm system anymore. So
So that's what I was gonna bring up. My next point with this was like, would you rather, or depending on the situation, like give up, our pivotal farm system pieces for 2 years of Juan Soto plus a Gleyber Torres, which is another guy who, depending if we sign him or not, is gonna be a Yankee for some time. Like, would you rather give him that, or would you rather get Castillo for a much lower asking price for this year? Like we're solving a bigger problem for less people, or we're getting Juan Soto for the house basically.
It's hard. That's a hard thing to answer. I don't know. That's a good way to put it. But like at the same time, you're the Yankees. It's you have a good farm system for once, that you have pieces that you can give up, and he comes along. It'd be the Yankee way, I think, to get him. But yeah, I think what you said makes a lot of sense. And I'm not going to be that disappointed if we don't get him. If I look at whoever does get, if he doesn't go anywhere, or if somebody gives up way more than we would have, fine. But
If the Mets get him, I'll be pissed.
they're not going to get him. There's no way. They're not going to want to trade him in Division A. and
I forgot they're in the same division.
Alonso's probably going to be in that deal. Like the Mets are going to have to give up. They're finally World Series contenders, and they're going to have to give up enough where it might hinder that. And plus Alvarez, who's the second best prospect in baseball. I think St. Louis has an interesting package to put together for them or for Soto.
I saw the Rangers were in on him.
I saw that too. I guess they weren't paying their middle infield enough.
And they're getting a lot of production out of those guys. Or
I think
all-star and in the home run
Simeon.
derby.
Okay, I'm not Simeon. I'm talking
I
about
don't know.
Simeon is notoriously the biggest bust this year out of anybody. So
I don't know if St. Louis is going to actually do this.
Remember when
I'll
you
start
guys
by
told me
saying
in the
that,
offseason that Simeon was like the crown jewel?
I
What?
thought he was very good because he
I
was.
said-
but-
I
was-
fucking hate Simeon. I never said that. Ever.
You literally sat and
Never
laughed me
once-
off the show
never
when I
once
said
did say
Simeon was
Marcus
overrated.
Simeon. No, I did not.
No, you're taking that out of context.
That is not. I fucking hate. I think Marcus Simeon sucks.
So
I always
St.
have.
Louis, Mason Wynn, Dylan Carlson, Nolan Gorman,
Is Mason
Tyler
Wynn the
O'Neill.
kid who threw 100
Yes.
miles per hour across the diamond?
and Jordan Walker. Those were like the 5 names that were thrown around in there.
Do they have the best farm?
And probably not, but they have a very good
Tampa.
farm.
The Padres have an interesting package.
Padres have an interesting one too, and they would
You have
pay
to
him.
get rid of
That's the
CJ
thing. I don't know if
Abrams,
St.
though.
Louis. I don't know if St. Louis would pay him the way San Diego probably would.
That'd be
so that's
fun
why
if he was.
I don't know, but
if
it
he was
would
paired
make
with
them an
Tatis.
instant contender. I'd say.
Could you imagine?
What
he
would
was
you
on the same
put the
team as
percentage
Tatis?
at that he actually gets
Auto.
traded this year? I would say like
67.
Soto?
67.
He's getting moved.
I was
And he gets
gonna-
traded
We're fucked
anywhere.
otherwise.
Anywhere this year.
The Nationals would be stupid not to do it.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah, but
Do you include do you mean like before the World Series this year or before the start of next season?
say this summer before the World Series. I'd say like
Trade deadline,
17%.
before the trade deadline.
So before the trade deadline?
I'd say less than
That
20%.
it's a deadline. So
Oh, it's above 20%.
it would
It's
be-
above 20%.
It's either this year or not this
It-
year. It's a deadline, so
It might be less than 50, but it's definitely more than 20.
I don't know, man.
I think it's about 50.
Teams do this all the time. Again, it's not Juan Soto. I don't know. I just don't
Like
know.
you just made the argument that earlier that the Nationals, his value is higher now than it will be. Every deadline or winter meeting that goes by that they don't trade him, that goes down. And they know that if he's not
Oh,
going
I
to
know.
sign for 14 years, $450 million, then what are you going to offer him?
But on the
that he
flip
will
side of that,
take?
I also made the argument that it's up to the teams that want to trade for him. So you look at the Yankees.
You're right, but they're
the
going to get
Yankees
some
aren't
very
gonna.
good
The Yankees aren't
packages.
going to offer, and I feel pretty confident saying that they're not going to offer the package that's needed for that. They're not going to offer their top 5 prospects.
Would
but
you make the
honest-
argument that it'd be good for the Yankees if he doesn't go anywhere at this deadline? Because then you know
Yeah.
what the deal is with Judge before
Yeah.
you're making this.
Yeah,
think it'd
that
be
would be
great.
better.
A, and B, theoretically the price is lower where you hold on to a prospect or two that you otherwise would have given up.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I
because
totally
I
agree.
do think that because knowing what Judge is the big key to this, because knowing what your deal is with him is a huge just piece of information to know. And I think I don't know, I wouldn't want it to be it's almost a similar situation to if you look at the Braves and the Freddie Freeman situation. I know it's not 1-for-1 because outfielder versus swapping or trading for a first baseman automatically outed Freddie Freeman, like they knew they were trading him. But like does trading for Juan Soto then look in Judge's like make it seem to Judge that he's less valued by the Yankees? So
If
I
they
don't know.
trade for him, Aaron Judge is walking. That is that. That is the.
I think dollars will cause that, but I think also emotionally, do you think that would if you're trading for the new face of the team, it would be?
I mean, if they offered him the money, I don't think he would care. I think he would think it was awesome to play alongside. No player.
But I know
is
the
gonna
dollars will
be- yeah,
not be there won't be the dollars available to do both. I'm
that's
just
what I'm
saying,
saying.
but
Yeah, I mean, he's walking. It's no conversation. And if you get Soto, he's gone.
it's true.
But I don't
But yeah,
know. I-
You think if we trade for him and don't extend him, you still think that about Judge?
No. If it's if you trade for him and offer Judge an extension in the offseason, that's it's a moot point. But
Right.
I don't know. I guess to answer Luke's question, are you saying do I think Judge takes that into consideration, even if they don't extend Soto and they offer Judge a fair contract, whatever that meets his asking price? Do I think that it affects his decision at all, that they think that highly of him to replace him as the franchise cornerstone? No, I don't. because I think Judge wants to win. The money matters, the years matter, but at the end of the day, he wants to win. He wants to win in New York. At least he says he does. So I don't think that getting another superstar would affect that in any way, shape, or form. No, if that's your question.
Okay.
I don't know.
Soto,
Want to move on?
Sure.
That was a nice hefty conversation, as expected, because this is a pretty.
I mean, this comes around
nuts
once every
thing.
20 years.
What we didn't mention was that
Trading
there's
A-Rod.
one person that should not be included in that package, and that person is Matt Carpenter.
Yeah, that's a non. I mean, you don't even make that point.
And it's funny because
It's like trading Juan Soto for Juan Soto.
We haven't even talked about any actual Yankees baseball recently, for good reason. But one thing we do have to address, and we're not going to talk about this Red Sox series too much, but like I was saying before, like this Matt Carpenter situation is getting a little out of hand. Like he is getting he's now has multiple games of 7+ RBIs in a season. The only people to ever have done that in Yankees history are Matt Carpenter and a bunch of schmucks. I'm just kidding. Joe DiMaggio, Lou Gehrig twice, and Babe Ruth. Just the list keeps going on. I mean, Matt Carpenter through his first 28 games of 2022. This is before his multiple home run game the other night. He had a .338 batting average. 11 home runs is now 13. 24 RBIs is now
34.
34 RBIs. And a 1.319 OPS, which I can only assume is like a 1.5 right now. Barry Bonds through his first 28 games to 284 batting average versus Carpenter's 338, 11 home runs versus Carpenter's 13, and 22 RBIs, 1.08 OPS. Really makes you think a little bit. But all jokes aside, what Matt Carpenter is doing is actually ridiculous. And it's no longer a small sample size. We're going to get to the point now where he's at 13 home runs. This is ridiculous. This is so
What we said is
so
over under at
ridiculous.
17 or 27.
He's going to smash that over. The new over under, the live line, if you're looking at it, if it exists, which I'm sure it probably does, I would probably put it at like
25.
30. I would say 30. 29. Does he eclipse the 30 mark?
It depends on the trade deadline, but yeah.
Which is so wild to say because he was not even on the team.
He was supposed to be a
all.
signing to get us through injuries. And then we were going to cut ties with him. He was supposed to be
he's batting 4.
Yeah, I know. He was supposed to be a 10, 20 day player. Let's see if we can get any sort of life out of him. We need a depth piece while everybody's hurt. And now he's
like 350.
Yeah, now he's our 4 or 5 hitter, you know.
It doesn't make any sense.
I told you last deadline that Matt Carpenter was going to be playing instead of Joey Gallo for the Yankees.
I mean, I fucking love it. He's the guy we need.
I saw a picture today, just kind of on that note. It was like Nestor, Clay Holmes, and Jose Trevino at the All-Star game. It's like, what if I told you that these were going to be the Yankees guys like a year ago? It was just them 3 sitting there smiling. So funny.
Yeah, Trevino, Holmes, and Nestor were at the All-Star game, and Matt Carpenter is our 4-hitter. like, like, what the fuck is going on?
And honestly, the most lackluster person on that list, I use that lightly. I don't actually mean that, is Garrett Cole. Like, Garrett Cole made the All-Star team, and honestly, like throughout the year, who are you more excited about? It's Nestor, Clay Holmes, Jose Trevino. Like, those 3 guys have been stealing the spotlight more than Garrett Cole, which is wild to say because he is still having a good year. But it's crazy to me that that's what's happening. Yeah, more so than the only person that's getting more headlines is Judge, and he's there for good reason, and so is everybody. I'm just saying it's wild looking at this team and saying that it's wild how far we've come. Here we are.
I remember I jokingly compared Matt Carpenter to Barry Bonds like last episode, and then we saw some things on Twitter that we're actually comparing him to Barry Bonds in his first 28 games of 2022 and Barry Bonds' first 28 games in 2000. And Matt Carpenter has 11 home runs, 24 RBIs, and Barry Bonds had 11 home runs and 22 RBIs.
I just read this, Damon.
Oh, you did? I must not have read
verbatim. We spent a good
That's
2 minutes on it.
what kicked off this conversation.
Good morning.
Must have cut out then.
Yeah, we'll blame it on that.
All right.
Um,
So, in other news, did you guys see that Matt Carpenter kind of compared to Barry Bonds, what those stats were?
Oh, fuck off.
didn't Murph just say that too?
Sure did.
What else do you guys want to talk about? You guys want to go over the,
I will say
the
this.
trust tree?
Can I wrap this up? Put a bow on this whole Red Sox conversation, because since that is kind of what led to this.
Red Sox?
The last 2 games, if those didn't go the way they did, we would have a lot to talk about today, because the Yankees were limping coming into that deadline. They lost 5, or to the All-Star break, they lost 5 of 6 heading into those 2, and then they just put an absolute fucking beat down on them. But if anybody needed 2 wins like that, I'm not saying the Yankees needed it necessarily because of their record or anything like that, but as far as momentum goes, they needed to win those games, and they needed to win them handedly, and they did. So I think that's the difference in coming out sluggish after the break and coming out like without skipping a beat.
I don't know. I feel like momentum just kind of wasn't really as important. Momentum
is so important.
Momentum just goes
Very
to die
important.
into the All-Star break, though. It's like any momentum you've picked up, I feel like is just you're restarting in the second half. So I don't really know it was that important.
No, that's wrong.
That is very
You're wrong. Show me the science.
We were saying, oh, this team needs the All-Star break more than anybody
Yeah, they
does.
did,
And we
'cause
just
it's a
went
reset.
out and beat the brakes off Boston at home. Like, you're
No,
telling me
no.
that's not
But
important.
I mean, like the last 2 games, like
It was very important. It made a statement that, hey, we're not slouching. We're back. Everything's good. This isn't the norm. We're not, limping into the All-Star break anymore. We're not looking for this break. We're not out of steam.
no, I know.
This team's
I
full
think it was
and
more
good to
so.
go. And
It was more so for the reason of like we aren't limping. I don't know. I just
it made
feel
a
like
statement.
Yeah.
Those were very important games.
Because we were talking about how this team needed the All-Star break more than anything, and I still think that is the case. But those last 2 games are able to hide that a little bit because
That's what I just said.
the
and you
injuries.
said no.
I just
Came around.
Okay,
Okay, just making sure.
you were very aggressive today.
I'm not.
You guys want to get into the trust tree?
Sure.
All right. So, does anybody want to go first, or how do we want to handle this?
I have a feeling that they're all going to be pretty similar. So,
okay.
whatever way you want to go about it.
Murph, let's hear yours.
Pull it up.
Versus pulling up the
So
40-man
Clay Holmes.
roster right now.
Clay
I have
Holmes still on
40-man
top.
roster. Then I'm going Michael King. Then I'm going Wandy.
Fair. I don't think there's any change to this point with anybody.
Disagree.
Okay.
I got a shocker for
Continue.
you.
And then I think Loizaga. I guess. I haven't seen. He hasn't pitched much yet, but
Yeah, I'm not gonna on one
That's where
thing on
it's
the
like-
wise guy. I'm not gonna put too much stock into what we just saw from him. I'm gonna bank on Loizaga being the guy that we know and love. And we talked about this last episode in depth. So if you didn't catch that episode, go ahead and listen. If you want to hear a lot about Loizaga, go ahead and listen to that episode. But yeah, I think I'm still confident Loizaga to be that guy. So I think that's a fair spot for him. Not
And-
confident enough to put him over those 3 guys though.
and then this is where it gets a little interesting between Licky and Chapman.
Oh my God, you're missing such a key person here.
Who am I missing?
Albert Abreu.
He's in. That's the. Do I really want to put him over Chapman?
Yes.
I would think
I
so.
think. You know what?
It's a trust tree. It's
have-
like who do you trust?
As
Yeah,
it
I
sits
guess
right now-
I'm putting a little. It's just because he hasn't really thrown that much. Do I
As of-
trust him
if
that
you
much?
go
But
on
I
right
think he's
now,
one of the better
You
ones in the
have
bullpen
to
right now.
just based
Dude,
off.
let
of
him talk.
pure
He's
stuff.
going-
We're
he's
in the
talking.
middle of
No,
a
I
conversation.
didn't want to put. I didn't want to put Abreu too high. But I mean, yeah. No, you're right. I think it is Abreu, and then probably Chapman and Licky. But the fact that Chapman is second lowest, I didn't expect that when I was putting this out.
Not a
Putting
lot
this
of
together.
not a lot of promising things out of him recently. So
I did see an interesting thing about, it was the dude from Just Baseball Fans, like, who is more impactful to this team in a negative way. Is it Chapman or is it Joey Gallo? And I think this conversation about him and the trust tree is exactly that. It's a microcosm of what that conversation is, because Chapman's going to come in. He's right now where you have him. What was it, 6?
Yeah.
on your list.
Well, I guess if we're including Castro, I'd put Castro above him, so it could be 7.
Castro's hurt
I know
now,
Castro. I know he's hurt now, but he just got hurt. I don't know.
right? Yeah. I mean, I would still
But
put
the
Castro
crazy
on.
thing is that I would put Clark Schmidt and I know JP Sears hasn't really come out of the bullpen, but I'd put Clark Schmidt above him too, even though he's in Scranton.
Above Chapman.
Yeah.
See, that's where we'd put him, just in terms, because the trust tree, for those who've never heard us talk about before, it's just like who do you trust? It's not like who's the more elite person or anything like that, like the pedigree wise, but it's just, we know that's not how the Yankees look at it, and we know that Chapman is going to come in some big spots, and that's why the argument that our pal from Pete was talking about is that he is going to have a bigger negative impact on the Yankees because he's going to come in a very big spot, and Gallo is just one player, and he's going to strike out, but he'll play all right defense, but like Chapman's going to be used in some big spots, and it's going to really hurt us, and that sucks.
That was the argument I was trying to make for Castillo and Soto. It was based on that video that you're talking about.
Not really.
Mm-hmm. I think Ron Marinaccio, if you're talking about injured people, needs to be up there.
He's up there probably around the same spot Abreu is.
All right, read back that list now.
So, sorry. Clay Holmes, Michael King, Wandy, Loizaga, guess Abreu, Chapman, Licky, and then I guess Weber if you want to put Weber on there.
Damon, any thoughts on that?
No, I mean I pretty much agree with that. I mean, like I think the Chapman conversation is gonna be one that's probably gonna change the most. So I feel like he's right now. There's nothing promising out of him right now, but obviously he's been one of the streakier guys in our bullpen, whether that's injury base or if that's just not being able to find the zone. But I don't know. Right now I have about a 10% confidence in him, but that can very well change very quickly throughout when the end of the season comes and playoff comes around. So I think that will probably be the biggest change in my decisions come playoff time.
And it would be interesting too to see, if we do go the route of the starting pitcher in the trade packages, and we don't go for Juan Soto, we get a Luis Castillo, we bump Nestor into the bullpen. Where does he rank in the trust tree? I think that would be pretty. He'd definitely rank very high. But I don't know. What's the deal with Domingo Germán? Is he gonna pitch? Because
he's gonna be in the bullpen.
Yeah, because he would. That's why I brought that up, because I feel like he would be in there.
Might start a game or two depending how long Sevy's actually out, but I think he's supposed to be coming back in the bullpen.
Is he? What's the deal with him? I just completely forgot about him.
Not really much of an update. I know they were saying
he
was supposed to be back around
with?
the end of this month. It was
I honestly forget. I feel like it's been forever.
it was shoulder something. I don't. Let me see. Oh, he's rehabbing right now. Nope, that's not true. That was from last year. Right shoulder impingement syndrome.
He is rehabbing right now. He's thrown 2 or 3 games.
He is. Cool.
You think he's gonna have any impact?
Yeah.
I think he'll be, when all said and done, in bullpen, if he stays there all year, around the Loizaga trust tree area.
I think he'd be, I don't know, maybe a couple spot starts.
I mean, we have so many spot start guys like that are effective, which is interesting. But
I actually have Michael King
he's
over Clay Holmes in my trust tree, for what it's worth.
that's interesting.
At number 1?
Mm-hmm.
That's for what do you mean for what it's worth? That's worth a lot.
Because
That's pretty fucking nuts. No way.
Yeah. Because Michael King's come in some situations some ugly situations with bases loaded, gotten out of it. He's gotten out with runners on. We haven't seen Clay Holmes really have to do that yet.
He's kind of had just clean.
And maybe it's recency bias. Maybe it's recency bias or whatever. But I don't know. Right now, if I had to have one guy come in. I don't think it's crazy to think it's Michael King. I just trust him to get out of a lot different spots that we haven't seen Clay at. And that's not a knock on Clay Holmes. I think Michael King has been borderline
He's been
underrated.
A little streakier, no.
King?
I don't know if he's been underrated, but he's had a little bit of, like,
He had like a
I'm not gonna
3
say- I'm
bad
not gonna
game
say
stretch.
yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna say ups and downs because most of it's been.
That's what Clay Holmes has had, and outside of that, he barely allowed a run all season. So.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Michael King is a little bit underrated. I think he's come into some shitty situations. He's done a really good job. I mean, who's your go-to guy? We played 3 or 4 straight extra inning games. Who was your guy that comes in with a run around second? It was Michael King every single time. And maybe 2 out of 3 it was him. Maybe it's 3 out of 4. I don't remember. He may have not done it every time, but pretty much every extra inning game that we go to now, Michael King is your 10th inning guy, and more often than not, he gets out of runner on second, nobody out. That's why he's up there for me, is what he does with runners on. I think he is borderline as nasty. Clay Holmes, there's just a certain level to that that's just otherworldly. You know, he's throwing 100-mile-an-hour sinkers, whatever, but Michael King doesn't throw slow. He's no slouch. His stuff's almost as good, and he comes in and he mops up some pretty intense situations. So I don't know. That's again, it's not a knock on Clay Holmes. I just wanted to put a little respect on Mike King's name.
No, that's a good point. I mean, I feel like, yeah, Mike King's definitely been put into tougher situations, more high leverage spots than Clay Holmes up until recently, because Clay Holmes has been closing games now, but. For the most part, Michael King has been in the worst situations possible and has gotten out of them for the most part.
I'm not saying that Clay Holmes can't do that. I totally believe he can. I don't know. Whenever Michael King's on the mound, I feel, and this is all the trust tree is just a feel. I feel whenever he's in, I feel like he's going to shut it down. Three outs, 3 easy outs. And maybe it's because he doesn't walk a lot of people. I don't know. Maybe it's just, like I said, it could be recency bias. Clay Holmes has been walking people lately. But I feel like Michael King doesn't really walk people. He's very, very effective. He's very nasty. And more often than not, you know, like I said, he comes in so much. We have the most walk-off wins this season, and we don't have that number without Michael King.
It's true.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with either one of those at the top, but I don't know. It is interesting to say because trust tree versus just who's been the better pitcher this year. It's different based on the situations they come in. So I don't know. I'm still gonna take Clay, but Mike King's been damn good, and he deserves to be at the top of that list.
We can all agree that Clay Holmes is 2 if Mike King's 1.
Yeah,
they're 1 and 2, and they're interchangeable.
Yeah, it's 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
That's a fair way to put it.
I have Chapman as my dead last, by the way. I have Licky higher than you do.
He's just the worst.
Licky's actually been pretty good recently. I mean, it's just it's a crapshoot at the bottom of who's hot. You just got to ride the hot hand up between, Chapman.
And that's kind of why I didn't want to put Abreu up that high, but
Abreu hasn't had any negatives so far. I mean, these guys have all been susceptible to their blowups, and I mean, obviously he doesn't have the
seems like
innings,
he's on borrowed time a little bit just because of how much he struggled before. And I know Matt Blake's working on honing in on one.
He didn't struggle last year,
and that's why he's been doing well. Yeah, he did. He got DFA'd by 2 teams this year. So
I said last year on the Yankees, he was more than
he
serviceable.
was okay, but serviceable, but not. We didn't think he was going to be this good. And so I don't know if this is he finally figured it out or if this is he's been pitching well and that's great. But I don't know where that fits on a trust tree. But I'm okay with putting him above Chapman and maybe Licky.
As am I. You guys want to do a little preview of the home run derby / just make our picks before we go ahead and watch it?
Did we see that the MLB All-Star game will, if it goes into extra innings, it'll be a home run derby instead
Really?
Wait, really?
of extra innings? Yep, and it's going to be.
So sick.
How does that work? Do they just is it like
each
a
team
shootout?
sends 3 guys. The NL will send Pete Alonso, Ronald Acuna, and Kyle Schwarber. The AL will send Ty France, Julio Rodriguez, and Kyle Tucker. And they don't know what the order would be, but it's just a home run derby.
I like this.
Dude, if
Just
that
actions.
happens, then the game is so rigged.
It could. They said that's going to be from now on in All-Star games. So whether it happens this year or not, it'll happen at some point.
Like, I would love to see that happen. I'd love to see that actually happen in every baseball game ever. That'd be so much fun. It's like a shootout in hockey, but
Yeah.
that'd be so sick.
That is
But,
cool. I don't know why they wouldn't select Judge Stanton, but that's just me.
Yeah, but like I feel like if that happens, it's gonna be like a juice ball game, and if that happens, it's gonna be like 11-11, and if they'll do a home run derby, that'd be sick.
I gotta say, out of all of the All-Star festivities, Pro Bowl, it's like all the different sports, I think the baseball All-Star Week is the only one that I actually am somewhat interested in, because baseball, at least the All-Star game, the home run derby is a lot of fun. I mean, home run derby is comparable to me to like the dunk contest, and home run derby is so much better than dunk contest as of recently. Dunk contest used to be really cool back in the day, but now the home run derby is just a lot of fun. I get really juiced up for it. It's fun betting on it too. But I think in terms of the All-Star games, if you're comparing them all, baseball is far and away the best one, because like the Pro Bowl, they don't want to get hurt. They don't try whatsoever. Basketball, they don't play defense. It's 175 to 180 final score. Baseball, you can't really take it easy. Like the pitcher is going to throw it as hard as they can. Like they're just going to, that's how you play baseball. You can't, he's not going to lob it in there. And the hitter is not going to just not swing. Like he's going to swing and try and hit the ball as well. So like, I mean, you see it judged with that home run against Max Scherzer a couple of years ago. It's just like, they're trying. They're really trying out there. And it used to be more so of the case because, you know, it used to be for home field advantage in the World Series. I don't know why they took that out. Did they take that out?
I think so.
I believe so.
That's the dumbest thing in the world. That was such a good rule that I'm going to blame that on Manfred, even though I have no fucking clue if that was him or not, but it was probably him. But even without that, they still actually try, because you can't physically not try in baseball. So,
do you like the timed home run, or do you like the outs better? I like the outs. I like the old classic one. Too.
But the time adds a different wrinkle.
Yeah,
I thought I would dislike the time more than I do.
I don't dislike it.
It's been a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I'll put it that way.
Exactly.
It's more entertaining because you don't watch somebody watch pitches just go by for a while and wait for their one pitch. So I could see why from a theatrics and a entertainment standpoint they would choose to do the timed. And it also does add an extra wrinkle, like the fat guy who has a fuckload of power. Like
Prince Fielder, baby.
I was about to say I would envision Prince Fielder. No offense to Prince Fielder. Him, I don't think he would do as well in the home run derby as a guy like, you know, you're seeing the guys that are in it right now. I mean, Corey Seager, Acuna, Juan Soto, Jose Ramirez, Pete Alonso, Julio Rodriguez, Albert Pujols, and Kyle Schwarber. A lot of these guys aren't your typical, like, just a big dude. Like, I'm thinking, what's his name from the Pirates?
Miguel Sano.
Miguel Sano. Daniel Vogelback, just the big bruisers. They wouldn't do well in this because it's really a marathon. Like, you got to take a break, and you need that break. That's why I don't know why.
You know what?
How Pete Alonso's good. Cause he's
it also matters about the pitcher a lot more. Tell that to Pete Alonso, because you only see so many pitches.
Yeah, which takes me into my picks. I don't know. I'm not going to pick Pete Alonso. But I do think if he's got the same pitcher, he's going to be getting them high and tight in the perfect spot every single time. So that's, I guess, a what to watch for me. But I don't know. I mean, looking at the field,
I got Schwarber.
I do too.
Did Schwarber do it ever?
I don't remember.
I
feel like he has.
Pujols is not going to be the pick for me, but it would be really cool if he did get that. We did a fun thing that we're going to do. We're watching the game live. Obviously, this is lost on you guys at this point when you're listening to the podcast, but we're watching it live on playback. Tune in we'll do those in the future. But we did a fun little draft we picked out of a hat. Everybody got two of the contestants, and Murph has Corey Seager, Ronald Acuna. Chandler has Jose Ramirez, Juan Soto, future Yankee. I have Pete Alonso, Julio Rodriguez. And Damon has Pujols and Schwarber. And if I had to pick one, I really think it's going to be Schwarber. But I think Acuna has a shot.
I don't know. Acuna's got to face Alonso. First one.
Does anybody in baseball care more about that than him? I mean, did you see they did like an interview with like a whole special
10 things.
Yeah. It's like my 10-step program to win it. It's like, dude, go fuck yourself.
Sell an online course of how to win.
I guess that's what you have to settle for if you can't win anything real.
Yeah.
Sneaky Juan Soto.
I don't think he didn't do well last time. He did it last year.
He's learned.
He did?
I don't know. No,
I
I
think
think it
Jose
matters a lot about.
Ramirez.
Jose Ramirez.
Jose Ramirez
I
could
don't
be a
even think Juan
sneaky
Soto
one.
gets
He's
out of
never
the first
done it.
round.
Well, he's got a tough first round because it's against Ramirez, right?
Yeah, they're playing each other. Those are my two
Is it?
guys. Yeah.
I didn't do this based on that I accidentally picked them and they're in the same bracket.
Mm.
I didn't do this based on the matchups.
No, I mean,
You
my
don't
two
really have
guys
to do
are,
it based on the match.
Yeah, those are
No,
you
I'm,
have
I'm
our
seeing the
guys.
graphic I did. I don't. I'm saying, are they actually facing each other in the first?
My two guys
Yeah.
are.
Okay.
Damon's 2 are 2, and then me and
Oh,
you
wow.
have it split on the other side of the bracket. So our Rella, we're going against each other head to head in the first round of both that side of the bracket.
Interesting. Do you think Julio Rodriguez has a shot?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
I think he does
Corey
more.
Seager
He
might
does,
sneaky be good too, but
really?
yeah, he's got a shot.
I think Julio has a shot more so because it's this timed thing because he's in shape. So
You
I feel
think
like he
Pujols
can-
is going to
he's
put up
a young
any
gun.
fight?
Pujols, the spread between Pujols and everybody else, I think he's going to be at least 8.
His
behind
over under was
the-
like 17
16
home
and a
runs.
half or some shit.
Was it
yeah.
six? I thought I saw 17 or 18. I
I've
almost
seen
took the under,
different
but
books with different
It'd be
stuff.
fun if he won. Could you imagine that?
He's never gonna win, but I think he could maybe sneak out of a round. Maybe. I mean, you'd have to beat who was it? Schwarber. He's in the first round.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a tough one.
It's a
but
tough pull.
I could see theoretically him sneaking out of one. Who
All
knows?
right. Well, thank you for tuning into the podcast.